Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you all for tuning in. So, this is a episode or show that I'm calling Tales of the Collection. And what it is I'm going to pick 5 CDs randomly off my shelf, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about how I got them, where I got them, the memories that kind of come with these albums. And I don't know, I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. And if you were watching or paying attention in the intro clip to this video, you'll notice I only picked 4 albums off my shelf. That's because I specifically wanted to include the album that gave me the idea for this entire thing. So that's what we're going to start with, and that is Breaking Benjamin's We Are Not Alone. So what gave me the idea for this whole series, if it turns into a series? Well, back in 2005, my dad's friend gave my dad this CD. My dad listened to it and in turn told me, you gotta check this out, this is really good. He told me he loved the songs Forget It, Sooner or Later, and especially Breakdown was his favorite one. So I play this one, and I like it a lot. And keep in mind, I'm not really into this alternative rock, alternative metal style music that was popular back in the early 2000s. I was more of a classic 70s and 80s rock fan, and I hadn't made that leap yet. And this album is actually very responsible for opening me up to more modern, at least modern as in of 20 years ago, rock. And I really loved it. Simple design, Firefly, and especially Follow were my 3 favorites on here, but I loved the whole thing. So I burned a copy onto my computer, and I gave the CD back to my dad so he could give it back to his friend. And I burnt a copy off my computer, and I made a little label for it, which is basically just the album cover, kind of printed off on the CD. It looked pretty cool, actually. And that's what I had for the longest time. But as I was kind of going through my CDs and putting them on the shelf, I'm putting this one up there, and it just struck me, like, I was just thinking about this. Like, this is probably the only CD on my entire shelf that I have absolutely no recollection of buying. For the longest time, I had that burned copy of this living in my CD case, and though I wanted to pick this one up physically, I just had other CDs that were priority for me. And then I sort of fell away from collecting physical media for a while. I kind of purged my collection in 2014-ish. And then probably from like 2015 through 2021, I kind of really didn't collect a whole lot of CDs or physical media. New albums as they came out, sure. I bought Dark Before Dawn when it came out. I bought Ember when it came out. I bought, Bon Jovi's new albums as they come out. Foo Fighters, other bands that I love that were putting out albums. But that was pretty much the extent of me buying albums, because at this point, it was all out there on the internet. So I just kind of fell into the mindset of, well, I mean, it's out there, so why clutter my apartment and whatnot? And maybe I'll do a video on why I really hate that mindset now, because for me, that doesn't work. But somewhere along the way in that time frame where I was not collecting CDs, I picked this up somewhere. I don't remember where, I don't remember when, I don't remember how. In fact, I didn't even remember that I bought it. About 3 or 4 years ago, when we were kind of getting ready to welcome our son in. My wife was pregnant with my son, and we already lived in a super tiny apartment. We were kind of consolidating everything the best that we could, just to make room for having a new member of the family. And so I took my CDs, which were on a little CD shelf. I think I may have shown it in a video before, those 2 black CD shelves. They were on there, plus I had like a little turning CD stand too, but it wasn't something that I was like going through my CDs all the time and organizing them and the way that I am now and the way that I did before. I was kind of in that little dark phase, I guess. So this just got lost in the shuffle. I never even took the CD out of the case. It was still in here. It never moved into my CD case. So I was still listening to the burn CD that I had, like in the car or whatever, if I was using my CDs. And when I was going through and kind of consolidating my CDs onto another shelf just to kind of consolidate them and make more room for my son, I come across this one, and I totally forgot I had even bought it. It kind of came as a surprise. Like, I didn't even know I had it. It just got lost in the shuffle somewhere, and to this day, I have no recollection of even buying this. My guess is that when Dark Before Dawn came out, I was super excited for that album, and as was me and a number of my coworkers, so it just kind of made us, I think, all collectively a little bit more excited for Dark Before Dawn when it dropped. So I was in a really big Breaking Benjamin kick at that point. I'm guessing I went to the mall with my friends, went to FYE, maybe saw this for $3 or whatever, picked it up. Maybe it was in a thrift store. I doubt it was in a thrift store, but I'm guessing it was like an FYE for like $3 at a mall. Probably somewhere around the time Dark Before Dawn came out, and I picked it up and I put it on my CD shelf, CD stand, and it just sort of got lost in the shuffle. And I discovered it, who knows how many years later, in 2020, when I'm consolidating all this stuff and really kind of going through it for the first time in a while. And there it was. To this day, I still have zero recollection of buying this. That's what made me think, I'll bet you I can remember something about buying every other CD on this shelf, whether where I got it, when I got it, how I got it, if it was a gift, anything. I'll bet you I can remember anything. So that's why I picked some random CDs off my shelf, and we're going to test that assumption here. And kind of a good one to start with is, how about Test for Echo? Rush's Test for Echo. This is an easy one to remember because I only bought this one last year. But when I was getting into Rush, I went to my favorite record store. He had a boatload of Rush CDs, but they were all newer ones. It was like, I had already bought Roll the Bones, and then he had like Counterparts, Test for Echo, Hold Your Fire, and what was the other one that I bought with them? Shoot, what was the other one? There was another one that I bought there, kind of in the same, maybe it wasn't even a Rush album, but those are the ones that he had, and I picked them up because I was like freaking in love with Rush, and even though they were albums that are generally considered to be the weaker amongst Rush's catalog, I loved all of them. This was the last one of the group that I actually put in the CD player. I think Counterparts is the one that I played first, then Hold Your Fire, and gosh, it's going to bother me. What was the other one? Presto, duh. I think Presto was the second one I played, then Hold Your Fire, and then I finally got around to playing this one, and I was like really surprised how much I loved it. I couldn't take it out of my CD player for a while. Test for Echo and Driven are great. Those ones are generally considered the best on the album. Songs like Half the World, The Color of Right is one of my favorite Rush songs of all time. That's the top 5 favorite Rush song for me. Totem is great. Dog Ears, it's silly, it's kind of dumb, but I love it. Virtuality is great. Carve Away the Stone, great closer. So many great tracks on here that just, I don't know, they're just kind of chills up and down the spine when you hear them, especially Color of Right. But man, half this album to me just really hit the spot. I love it. I think I would probably consider it the most underrated album in Rush's catalog. I love this one, so I picked it up sort of on a whim, and I'm glad I did because I freaking love it. Next one here, we've got, this one we're going back for. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. Alright, so, I love this one. I got into Bon Jovi when I was 12, or about to turn 12. And, I got Crush. That was the album that introduced me to the band. My second one, I got One Wild Night, the live album, and Crossroads over the summer. And then I got Bounce. Bounce was given to me when it came out. After that, that's when I started to go back and dig into the back catalog. And the very first back album that I bought was, of course, Slippery When Wet. And I picked this one up. I was out with my dad, and we bought this, I think, at Best Buy. Back when Best Buy used to sell CDs. And it was like the obvious choice, you know. I mean, when I was going to buy Bon Jovi's back catalog, I mean, this, obviously, it's the iconic Bon Jovi album with a number of the hits. I remember playing it and falling in love with Let It Rock. I loved Bad Name at the time. Prayer. Social Disease. I kind of liked that one when I first heard it. Over the years, I've kind of not crazy about it. Don't hate it. I'm not crazy about it. I think it's generally considered the weak song on the album for a reason. Wanted Dead or Alive, never been my favorite Bon Jovi song, but a classic nonetheless. And then Raise Your Hands and Without Love, just great, great songs. I Die For You, Wild in the Streets. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was at Best Buy, but I know I was out with my dad sometime in the fall, October-ish. So we weren't Christmas shopping or anything like that, but yeah, I was out with my dad for whatever reason sometime in late September, October. We stopped at Best Buy. I bought this. We played it on the way home, and I'm almost positive it was the Best Buy from State College, PA. And I fell in love with it. Turned into my favorite Bon Jovi album for a little while. It's one of the albums from Bon Jovi that held that top spot for me. So yeah, Slipper and Wet. Next up, I've got Genesis, A Trick of the Tail. This one's not quite as exciting because I ordered it off the internet, but 2 years ago when I was really starting to get into Genesis, especially the Phil Collins era, I ordered a bunch of CDs for my birthday. A lot of them were Genesis CDs too, and this was one of them. But when I played this album for the first time, I played it on my YouTube app. I really fell in love with the first 3 songs on here. Dance on the Volcano, I love the guitar work on that song. It's just something that gets caught in my head. That, you know, bum, 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 bum. I could listen to that all day. Phil's melody choice for that song is a little jarring at first, but I think once you kind of get into it, it works. Entangled is just a wonderfully creepy, yet, I don't know, enchanted kind of a song. It is just, I don't know, it's creepy, yet it's beautiful at the same time. It totally works, and I love that track. Squonk is really cool as well. Madman Moon's pretty good. Robbery, Assault, and Battery, that's my least favorite. Ripples is pretty cool. Really, this one feels more like a Phil or like a Gabriel era than it does a Collins era, even though Phil is the lead singer by this point. But I tend to think of it more with the Gabriel albums than I do the Phil Collins albums. But I just remember the first time I played this one, those first 3 songs really clicked with me. And the thing about this is, too, one of the reasons why I did order this on CD, well, not specifically CD, but why I ordered it online, I remember a few years ago, there were just a shit ton of vinyl records that came in at Goodwill. 300 of them. And one of them, there were some Genesis ones in there. This was one of them. I passed it up because I only kind of had enough to buy a certain amount, and I didn't buy. Trick of the Tail was one of the ones that I passed up on. I think then there were 3, maybe Wind and Wuthering. I don't know, maybe Duke. I don't remember. I know for sure this was one of them, and I passed it up. I bought 1 to 2 dozen other records, but I passed this one up, and I kind of was kicking myself for it. So when I made a CD order for my birthday a couple years ago, I included this one. Another one that I ordered on the internet is this one right here, the Hooters Zigzag. And it's really starting to rain now. I don't know if you can hear that through the phone or not. I would be surprised if you couldn't because it's getting heavy. But I got this on vinyl. I ordered on vinyl because when I was getting into the Hooters a couple years ago, I bought Nervous Nights and One Way Home and Amore on vinyl at this one record store. And I look, excuse me, throat's getting a little dry. I loved all 3 of them. So I started listening to this album on my phone, and I loved it. It's actually my favorite Hooters album. So I ordered it out on vinyl first. But then I started wanting to collect these on CD so that I could take them with in my car and whatnot. And again, I found Nervous Night, but then I just could not find the other Hooters CDs, so I just broke down and ordered them online. Got One Way Home and Zigzag together. I think it actually might have been from that same Amazon order that I got all those Genesis CDs. I got those 2 Hooters CDs too. So those are the stories of those 5 CDs, how I got them. If you like this kind of content, hold on a second. Before I do my housekeeping here, I needed another drink. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, put down in the comments your thoughts on any of these albums, any tales that you have getting these albums, or any album that you choose to share. I would love to read those comments. So I'll catch you all in the next video.